Hey Sneak Peekers, I'm Melody.
And I'm Nolan.
It's the end of the year, and to celebrate, we're bringing you a review from Luca Guadagnino's second film this year, Queer.
After that, we'll be going over the Golden Globes nominees and our picks for the best films and television shows of 2024.
And to end off the night, we'll be giving a special retrospective on the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, a staple in Texas and horror films for its golden anniversary.
You won't want to miss this.
It's been a few weeks since we were last here, and in that time, there's been a growing number of celebrity lookalike contests springing up across the country.
That's right, and speaking of the Glenn Powell lookalike contest, the winner of that contest, which was chosen by Powell's mom herself, has been awarded a cameo in the star's next movie.
Timothée Chalamet also made headlines again last Saturday when he made a guest appearance on ESPN's College Game Day in Atlanta, where he gave his game picks for the day.
Here at the University of Texas, fans were delighted when Chalamet favored the Texas Longhorns to win over the Georgia Bulldogs, which is definitely what happened.
That's right. According to Chalamet, he had to go with his movie dad, referring to Longhorn fan Matthew McConaughey, who played Chalamet's father in the 2014 film Interstellar.
The two stars took a picture together at the Texas vs. Georgia game, reunited just in time for the film's 10th anniversary.
In honor of the decade milestone, AMC theaters re-released Interstellar in IMAX theaters last weekend, which has grossed approximately $4.4 million at the box office.
In other news, the Golden Globes officially announced their slate of nominations for the 2025 ceremony yesterday morning.
With 10 nominations, Emilia Perez received the most recognition among the nominated films and television programs, a new Golden Globe record for comedy or musical films.
Other major film contenders include The Brutalist, Conclave, Anora, and surprisingly, The Substance, which earned 5 nominations, including Best Director.
The last time the Globes nominated a horror film for one of the 2 Best Picture categories was in 2018, when Jordan Peele's Get Out was also nominated for Best Musical or Comedy.
Considering how well Get Out did at the Academy Awards, I hope this means we'll see The Substance receiving some love this award season.
On the television side, The Bear led with 5 nominations, followed by Only Murders in the Building and Shogun, each with 4 noms.
Wow, sounds like it's going to be a big night for Selena Gomez then.
No kidding. That's all the news we have tonight, but before we pass it off to this week's review, we'd like to recommend When Harry Met Sally as Movie Rec of the Week.
Recommended by our writing team, the film is a beautiful love story that's a perfect way to end off 2024.
All right, now we're going to throw it off to Annie and Isabella for their review of Luca Guadagnino's Queer.
Take it away, y'all.
I'm Annie.
And I'm Izzy.
And this past Thursday, Izzy and I got the chance to catch a screening of Luca Guadagnino's new film, Queer, based on William Espero's novella. Such a heavy story. What did you think, Izzy?
I thought it was really interesting. The story follows Lee, played by Daniel Craig, an expat in 1950s Mexico City struggling with addiction and logging. Things get intense when he meets Eugene, this younger guy played by Drew Starkey. The relationship is complicated.
Totally. The way Guadagnino captures their dynamic is incredible. The visuals alone were stunning. Mexico City was like a character in itself, with all the vibrant colors and geometry. And the way the third act shifts, both in setting and tone, added so much tension. Lee's journey of self-discovery really picked up there. I loved how the film balanced surrealist moments with grounded realism. It kept me on edge.
Same, and those surreal touches really highlighted the emotional instability and yearning between the characters. Craig's performance was amazing. He brought so much vulnerability to Lee. You could feel every ounce of his pain and longing. It was such a transformation. I almost forgot he was the same actor from those big action roles. Starkey was good too, though his character had this mysterious aloofness that didn't stand out as much as Craig's intensity.
But their chemistry worked, and let's not forget the supporting cast. Jason Schwartzman was hilarious and authentic as Joe Goodry, and Leslie Manville as Dr. Cotter. Talk about unsettling. She brought so much depth to her role. The whole cast really delivered.
And the themes, wow. Addiction, unreciprocated love, rejection, so raw and personal. It's not just a queer story, it's a deeply human one. But it doesn't shy away from the specific struggles of being queer either. It's one of those films that lingers with you. I'll admit, I left the theater feeling confused at first, but after sitting with it, I really appreciated how bold and deeply emotional it was. It might even need a second watch to fully sink in.
Same here. Guadagnino's direction is so unique. The film is darker and more surreal than Call Me By Your Name or Challengers, which you may know him for. It's not for everyone, but if you're willing to explore its depths, it's such a rewarding experience.
And that Nirvana needle drop, what a moment. I almost jumped out of my seat.
Yes, such a perfect touch. Overall, I'd say Queer is a thought-provoking, visually stunning film that's worth watching. What's your rating?
I'd give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's not flawless, but it's powerful and definitely worth seeing. How about you?
I'd agree with that. Strong performances, incredible visuals, and a story that stays with you. Queer is definitely one to remember.
Hey Nolan, are you doing any gift exchanges this holiday season?
Yeah, but I've got to figure out what to put on my wish list this year.
Same. While we figure out what we want to put on our wish list, we have some sneak peekers here to build a wish list of their own.
Frankie and Caitlin are going to choose their picks and predictions for the Golden Globes.
Take it away, y'all.
Hey, I'm Frankie.
I'm Caitlin.
And we're here to do the 82nd Annual Golden Globes predictions and picks. So, we're going to start off with the Best Motion Picture Drama. Who do you think? Prediction first. Then pick.
I think it's gonna be between The Brutalist.
That one was almost 4 hours. I worked it. Trust, it was cracker.
Oppenheimer was long too, and it won last year. So
Okay, you have a good point.
that's
I think Dune Part 2 might win. It was also long. Not that that constitutes a win, but it had a lot of hype. You watched it?
yeah, I watched it.
Was it good?
I personally liked it.
Okay, but you have bias,
But-
though. You have bias.
That's my.
Yeah.
I would choose that,
You-
but I
I
don't know
would
if it's
choose
gonna
it
win.
because of the hype. I'm pretty sure it was good.
Yeah,
It was long and good. It's
yeah.
it's
Some
from
people
a book.
did
It's an
not like
adaptation.
it.
I saw September 5th. I really liked it. I did miss the first 15 minutes, but from what I did see, it was really great. And I was at the edge of my seat, and I'm not much of an action thriller kind of gal. So, and I thought it was well. I'm saying, y'all. I'm saying, but prediction. Okay, prediction. You think The Brutalist?
Yes.
Is that what we're gonna go with? The Brutalist.
Yes.
Our pick. Dune.
Dune. Yes.
Dune. Okay. And then, best motion picture, musical or comedy. I have a grievance with this one because I think musical and comedy should be two separate
Yeah,
categories.
I agree.
I think it is such a broad category, and I think there could have been more that could have been nominated.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. And were all of these comedy? Well, I guess some of these are musical comedy,
Yeah.
but we were talking about this. That Substance,
the
Substance has
Substance
some
has
comedy.
comedy. Yeah.
Challengers. I don't get comedy from it.
Not.
Honora though.
No. Honora,
I got
I really
comedy.
loved. Honora,
Yeah.
it was so.
Thank you, Melody, for the screening. Emilia Perez. Did you see that?
I have not seen it yet.
I know people were
but
talking about
I've
Selena Gomez's
heard-
accent. She's Latina. I'm just saying, y'all. She's Latina
Yeah.
always. So, a real pain. I think I am a bias. I have a bias for Jesse Eisenberg. I met him once. That was so fun. South by Southwest. Thank you. Prediction.
I think.
So it's A Real Pain, Honora, Challengers, Emilia Perez, The Substance, and Wicked. I'm gonna.
I wanna say Wicked.
Yeah. Pick.
But my pick, I would want Honora to win. I just don't know if it would win for that category.
I think I'm gonna have to go with The Substance. I haven't watched it. Don't kill me, please. I haven't watched it, but I know a lot of people really love it. You watched it. You liked it.
I love The
I saw.
Substance.
I think I saw the ending part where they were like, in like retro working out clothes or something like that. I saw like that last minute ish, and I thought it looked really well. I don't know. I'm just a gal. Don't come at me. So prediction, Wicked, pick. We have two different picks.
Mine's Honora.
Mine is The Substance. And now we're gonna go to animated. It's Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Moana 2, The Wild Robot, and Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul.
I think the Wild Robot's gonna win for this category.
I also think so too.
It's been doing really well.
Yes,
I've not watched it yet, but
for me, that's both a prediction and a pick.
yeah,
So, okay. We agree
Yeah.
with that.
I agree with that.
And then the non-English language best motion picture, we have All We Imagine at Light, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, The Girl with the Needle, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Vermiglio.
I have not seen any of these films.
I have not either. But because Emilia Perez was nominated so much,
That one.
I think I'm going to have to go
might
with
win.
that for
Yeah.
prediction and a pick as well. I think there's a lot of buzz around it, so I mean, I don't think it would be good. And then now we're going to go to Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Motion Picture Drama. And we have Angelina Jolie, Fernanda Torres, Kate Winslet, Nicole Kidman, Pamela Anderson, and Tilda Swinton.
I want to say, I want Pamela Anderson to win.
Yeah. That, I was there. Okay, well, I wasn't technically there when they showed The Last Showgirl. I was at the theater next door. But when they showed it, there was a huge line. Like, there was a lot of people really enjoyed it when they came out. They filled to capacity at the State Theater. And that doesn't happen too often, honestly. Usually the Paramount fills up, but it was the State. And I don't know. I think I also predict Pamela Anderson. Maria, I think that's what I was doing. I think I was working Maria. So, and it was
between Maria and, well, Angelina and Pamela.
Maria, that one's about an opera singer, if I'm not mistaken. Or soprano, a soprano. She's a soprano. Soprano, yeah. And let's go to the next one. Best Performance by a Male Actor in the Motion Picture Drama. We have Adrian Brody, Coleman Domingo, Daniel Craig, Ralph Fiennes, Sebastian Stan, and Timothée Chalamet. What do you think?
I want to say Coleman.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Sing
I feel like
Sing? That came out earlier this year, right? Right?
it was they
during
premiered it at
Austin. Yeah. Last Austin Film Festival.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Adrian Brody at The Brutalist. Oh, he was Adrian Brody, possibly, I feel.
Yeah.
Because he was in The Brutalist. That was pretty big. 3 hours and 35 minutes. That's a huge runtime. Timothée Chalamet. There's definitely a bias, y'all. There's definitely a bias. Not gonna lie. I don't know. I think the pick.
I want to.
What's
go
a
with
prediction?
Predictions?
Yeah.
Adrian Brody.
I think that's also my
But
prediction.
my pick is Coleman Domingo.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Again, I do have to say my grievance. I think it should be 2 separate categories for musical and comedy. Yeah. But here we have Amy Adams, Cynthia Erivo, Demi Moore, Carla Sofia Gascon, Mikey Madison, and Zendaya. This is a good one.
Yeah, it is.
I think this is probably the hardest category for me.
I feel like Demi Moore.
Demi Moore? Is that your prediction or your pick?
Prediction.
I think my prediction is Cynthia. I think she was really great.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed her.
I think my pick, though, would be Mikey Madison because Honora was just so great. I really did love it. And yeah, those were some of our predictions for the 82nd Annual Golden Globe. I'm Frankie.
I'm Caitlin.
And we'll be back after this commercial break with the Texas Chain Saw Massacre retrospective.
To end off the night, we have a special segment over Texas Chain Saw Massacre by Dan.
Roll the clip.
The segment which we are about to see is a culmination of the impromptu shoot which befell a small sneak peek crew. It is all the more tragic in that they had weeks upon weeks to complete this project. Still, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to produce as much of the mad and slapdash as you are to see. For them, a month-long walk in the park became an exercise in production hell. The events of that shooting day were to lead to the production of one of the most bizarre segments in the annals of sneak peek history, the Texas Chain Saw Massacre 50th Anniversary Retrospective.
All right. Anyone down to split a head cheese sandwich before we hit the road, or are you guys holding out for barbecue later?
All right, Lily, do you think you can do a quick rundown of the camera?
Sure. We should have been on our way to We Slaughter Barbecue out in Bastrop, but The AC in here is a bust, the gas tank's running low, and now I unfortunately can't get the image of so-called head cheese out of my mind. So I think we're sticking pretty close to Toby Hooper's vision.
Okay. Run down to the shoot on a status update. Besides, Ryan probably doesn't know what you're talking about. They haven't watched Texas Chain Saw Massacre yet.
What? What do you mean you haven't watched it? It is the awesome movie and arguably one of the best movies of all time.
Hey, but don't verbally gut her, alright? She's just sound. She doesn't know any better. Alright, how about this? Just practice the rundown on her before we hit traffic and the information gets fried out of your head by the sun. Alright? Don't lose the information. We can fix a lot in post. And don't forget to touch on how Austin influenced the film's production, how an Austin-bred indie became a cinematic touchstone, and how Austin has embraced the film's legacy.
Texas Chain Saw Massacre is a deranged movie about deranged people that plays out like it was produced by deranged people.
The mad and macabre story of 5 youths getting lost in the backwoods hell of Central Texas and falling prey to a family of bloodthirsty chainsaw, mallet, knife, and broom-wielding ghouls, though it feels belched out of a grimy sulfur pit, cannot have been born anywhere else but Austin. Conceived, written, directed, and set in the midst of the grim Nixon administration, Texas Chain Saw was the brainchild of UT film alumni Toby Hooper, wanting to produce an angry movie that would project the rage and apathy of an entire nation. Connections at Texas Tech and the Texas Film Commission funded the initial $60,000 production, and by sourcing cast and crew from Central Texas unknowns, Hooper & Co. hit the road to Leander, Round Rock, and Bastrop on a month-long excursion through production hell. Finally, a year later, Texas Chain Saw Massacre had its Austin premiere on October 1st, 1974, at the now-defunct Riverside Twin Theater on East Riverside Drive. Because of the work with what you got parameters of independent film, it is undeniable that this film oozes with Texas aesthetic.
A film made for less than $100K should have never logically made $30 million at the box office. But this was the early 70s, the era of the American grindhouse and exploitation circuit.
I mean, just look at this poster. A title that promises violence, an image that sells horror, a tagline that haunts. It's a formula that has continued to be repurposed for years, lending its DNA to the burgeoning slasher genre with varying degrees of success. Even though the violence was kept minimal enough for a 70s PG, its implications were enough to land an American R with foreign X's and even bans on occasion. Of course, exploitation audiences were bound to eat this movie up. But how did such an off-putting movie break out of the grindhouse septic tank and become recognized in the mainstream as one of the best American movies?
Yeah, I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is in some ways like the little movie that could, right? It's a really interesting case of a small independent film that eventually sort of rises to sort of global significance and popularity, both as a sort of key cornerstone of the horror genre, but also just as like a huge box office success. And part of that was due to the fact that due to the controversy around it, frankly, which is to say that as it was sort of initially picked up for distribution, it was released locally in Texas. It performed pretty well. It eventually sort of spread out to the sort of major cities, so it gets a release in sort of a number of theaters in New York and LA and select theaters across the US. And then eventually, plays some very notable festivals, right? And sort of gets some notoriety from sort of festivals globally, and then eventually sort of moves into sort of global release. And part of the reason that I think it was so successful and the reason it became such a global hit is a couple factors. One is that it sort of had this kind of reputation even immediately upon its release of being like one of the most terrifying movies that people had ever seen, right? So that just the general word of mouth, and also it's augmented by a lot of the marketing materials for the movie and the sort of one-page ad they notoriously put in Variety to sort of market it in LA upon its release in LA, really stress that this is going to not only be a sort of singular scary experience for the spectator, but also the film sort of notoriously opens with this kind of faux documentary moment, right? That sort of immediately puts us in the place of, is this real, is this not?
Austin feeds its own, and since Texas Chain Saw has torn its way through silver screens with unabashed Austinite zeal, the city of Austin was only more than happy to celebrate its child even half a century after its release.
Recognizable shooting locations from the film have been adopted by fans of the film, and in the case of the family house in Kingsland and the gas station in Bastrop, both have been turned into must-go pilgrimage sites for horror fans. Even beyond just horror hounds, Austin's Alamo Drafthouses have featured the film in their 1974 Time Capsule series, the art house Austin Film Society Cinema has screened the restoration, and even the Texas Film Commission hosted its own commemorative screening. Austin itself just can't seem to get enough of their proto-slasher.
I think this movie endures In part because I think that people seem to project a kind of violence onto it that is not actually really there in the film to a certain degree. It's not really gory. I mean, it's horrifying and unsettling, but it's not gory. There's a sort of casualness to the violence in that movie in which human bodies and real people are like literally being treated like pieces of meat. And it's that kind of casualness of the horror where someone's getting thrown up on the meat hook. We don't see the meat hook go into the back, but we viscerally feel it as an audience, right? And what's even more horrifying is less the actual like act itself and more the sort of, you know, the sort of capacity for someone to sort of have that lack of humanity, right? Like those are the thematics that really endure in the movie. I also think that there's something very intrinsically American about this movie that endures and just recycles over time. It makes itself newly relevant for every generation. Like even at the time when the movie came out, there were critics and media scholars and film scholars who were talking about, you know, this is a movie about, you know, industrialization in America, right? This family has been sort of displaced from their factory jobs and has now turned to this sort of horrible life of cannibalism and crime and all, and, you know. But I think that what's interesting is, like, we still have these debates, right? Like, automation in various industries is still something that is, like, very relevant to American life today and American society today. And that sort of renews some of the themes around the film, I think, in interesting ways. You can see it sort of, like, endure in that way. It remains iconic in part just because I think of some of the imagery in the movie, and there's something in some ways more unsettling about watching Leatherface spin in the sun with his chainsaw, just sort of like, you know, that he endures in this space. Horrors endure in the world. We constantly sort of are sort of keenly aware of this, but I think the film leaves us in this very unsettled space where our heroine, technically our final girl, gets away, but not really, you know what I mean? It sort of makes us sit in both the reality that this family still exists and will continue to exist and will continue to perpetrate horrors. And it also does not leave us with a sense that she's gonna be okay, right? And so there's something that's even like, for me, it's like the most horrifying moments of the movie, even after enduring all the horrors that she's already gone through. There's something very sort of like deeply unsettling about the way that the movie ends that I think, and it's so ambivalent in some ways, that I think that is something that kind of endures just culturally, is this sort of feeling of being kind of unsettled. And the fact that, like, we're not going to get the happy Hollywood ending out of this movie. We still have to walk back into the world where real horrors definitely exist.
And on the 50th anniversary of its national release, Mayor Kirk Watson has proclaimed October 11th as Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day here in Austin, further carving the film's legacy with its native Austin and acknowledging its staying impression on the annals of American film. Still, you don't have to wait until October 11th to watch the film. Any day is just as good to watch. But remember that whatever survives and whatever is left of your psyche post-viewing will forever be marked by the roaring of that 50-year-old chainsaw. Till next time, sneak peekers.